my name is Krista, otherwise known as the Femitheist. Some of you may know me from my YouTube account, some of you may know me from my blog, and for some of you this may be the first time you're ever hearing my name at all. Regardless, I'm here to let all of you know, my allies and adversaries alike, that myself, my friends, and my followers are here to reboot the new era of feminism. I'm the overseer of this movement, and I will also be coordinating the events. This time, our movement is about more than just words. It's about actions, about making a difference and redefining the world. It is a proposed global initiative for population reduction, which will, in a few decades, lead to a worldwide male population of roughly 1 to 10% for the purpose of peace and prosperity around the world. This population reduction is the only logical long-term solution. Our plan is one of pacification and submission, and many of these short-term solutions are already underway in the Western world, so we are confident in our ambitions. We will be teaming up with members of the well-known organization Rad Film Hub. This time we will not allow ourselves to be distracted or hindered by groups like the men's right movement and the mainstream feminists. They are no concern to us, and they will not stand in our way. So to all the people out there who disagree, Paul Elam, John the other, Girl Writes What, their friends and followers, you can't stop.
Nations will agree to work together to tackle these cross-border challenges posed by population growth, overconsumption of resources, and environmental degradation. The prospects for a decent life on our planet will be threatened.
So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything,
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
And the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
The pieces are in flux.
Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
So that the problem of the Bush presidency will be the emergence of a new international order.
Within the next 4 years, we will see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order.
But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order.
So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges.
I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
That this crisis, in the way that has developed, will require some kind of a world governance.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the U.S. would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
So I see a world order in the future with a multipolar world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation. We have resolved that from today we will together manage the process of globalization to secure responsibility from all and fairness to all.
And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
Well, during the conflict with Saddam Hussein, which he handled so superbly in a short-term sense, but he kept talking about a new world order. And then President Bush, at the end of that war, promised he would give 4 graduation addresses, 4 commencement addresses, describing that new world order and what America's role was going to be in it. It turned out he gave one of those addresses and canceled the other 3 and talked about something else. That's because they weren't ready yet.
That in fact we're all going to have to give up a little bit of our sovereignty in order to make the world work.
And I strongly believe India will be a central actor in the new world order.
And this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here for too long. Already there are powerful forces at work that threaten to destroy all of our hopes and efforts to erect an enduring structure of global cooperation.
Are you optimistic a global system can happen from what we've heard so far?
It could happen, and in fact it's in the works.
Just one thing, we could go on about how your family committed all these acts against society, but we just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve. Well, we just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve. Well,
He was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, "Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about?" And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, you know? And he started to laugh. He said, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Why am I an idiot?" He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, you know? And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were two primary reasons. And they were, one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. You know, when I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
Aaron, did you know that Gloria Steinem, in one of her own books, now admits the CIA funded Miss Magazine?
No, I had no.
There's widespread scientific agreement that this is the most immediate threat to life as we know it. Meet the enemy.
How do you manipulate people so that they're willing to engage in war and murder their fellow human beings? How do you convince a society to willingly discriminate and commit violence? How do you convince a population to stand by and do nothing as you systematically murder large groups of people? This is part of public relations technology. Now, I'll be doing another video on public relations and media control because there's all sorts of different types of public relations. Now, today I'm going to be talking about one specific technology called hate speech. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that the technology of public relations is there to form public opinion and emphasize emotional control. It's there to seek to control public attitude. It's scary how effective public relations really is. It's how do you make a person feel and think a certain way. Now, you have to ask yourself, how much of what you feel and think is a result of what somebody else wants you to feel and think? So if you saw my previous video about the different types of mind control, you noticed that there were 3 basic types of mind control. There was conscious, subconscious, and biological. Now what I'm talking about in this video actually fits in between the conscious and the subconscious. And you can call this type of mind control semi-cognitive, semi-conscious, or emotional mind control. This type of mind control is at the level of information control, and it deals with propaganda and public relations. Now, it doesn't appeal to your reason, it appeals to your emotions. You see, it's semi-cognitive, so the information is brought to you at a conscious level, but it's not designed to educate you or make you more reasonable. It's designed to play off of your subconscious impulses, hate, fear, anger, and other negative emotions. So in essence, the person using this form of mind control is trying to manipulate people's behavior by first manipulating their emotions.
Doing. Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore you have to have a certificate, a manifest, to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one, order your birth certificate, it'll only cost you, sometimes it's free, it'll only cost you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept if not on full color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much this stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up. This is serious.
Is this true? Has there been an emasculation of greater society? Is manhood under threat?
I think it is under threat, Michael, and there's a couple of big hints to that. Not least of all, it's something a lot of people, at least here in the States, are talking about. But you can get some strong hints of it just by watching television. If you look at not only commercials, but sitcoms, dramas, husbands and fathers are always complete idiots who have to be saved from the day by their ever more intelligent and competent wives and children. And that's just one example of sort of the dumbing down of manhood we have, where it's sort of this, what I've come to call the man bad, woman good view of the world. And it's really unfortunate because then we find a whole lot of guys are playing Xbox in their parents' basements at the age of 26 and 27 instead of growing up and starting families, and it becomes this very difficult catch-22.
That's very true, I have to say, and I don't have any particular agenda in terms of men's issues, but for years now on TV, the father is sometimes a nice, kind figure, but he's bumbling and he gets it wrong. And it's always the mother who says, unless he's a single father, which hardly ever happens, but the single fathers, they're okay, but otherwise he's a bit of a clown, isn't he?
Yes, and even then, he sort of needs the women from the neighborhood to show him how to raise his children and so on. Yes, and then when you do see the more masculine qualities portrayed, it's very often in a very negative way. I mean, he's too competitive, and certainly he doesn't share his feelings enough. And we all have seen the shows, right, where you have these talk shows and the women are talking about their horrific boyfriends who aren't sensitive enough and don't care about their feelings and, oh, those awful brutes. But if those brutes were coming on and talking about their wives and saying, you know what, she's just not having enough sex with me, well, we can't have that discussion, or she's too sensitive, or she's too emotional, well, that's off the table. Everybody has to look one way more and more culturally, and more you have to look like a girl. And I think it's so unfortunate we're feminizing men instead of civilizing them, which has historically been the role that women have played. Now we just kind of want to make men into our best girlfriends, and I think it's very destructive for culture and family.
Now, this is good. I'm not going to talk about she's not having enough sex with me, because my wife might be watching, and it really will be a problem. But the idea of looking like a woman. Now, it's one thing to be groomed, to make sure that you don't smell bad. You know, I mean, I put on colognes and stuff like that. But there has been this tendency to almost blur the genders, where men, I don't mean they walk around saying, look at me, we're holding their muscles up, but they have become effete.
Yeah, we definitely have gotten into this sort of this melding, if you will, this homogenized look that I think is not necessarily particularly attractive. I tend to like manly-looking men. But maybe that's just a signal of some other things that are going on in the culture when we really are sort of not valuing the more traditionally masculine qualities. And there's some reasons for that that don't have to do with feminism. I mean, we do have a economy now that really is beneficial to multitasking. It's more service-oriented. We don't physically need the brawn that perhaps we once did. Women are excelling in high schools and colleges, at least here in the United States. There's this phenomenon of the supergirl and all kinds of questions about where are the guys on college campuses, because it's the women who are applying more, getting in more, and then doing better once they get there. And the women tend to now, in most major cities in the United States, on average, young women are making more than their male counterparts, and on it goes. So some of this has to do with economics. Some of it has to do with a very feminist agenda that says the traditional male qualities of being competitive, of being a little more stoic, not always being so verbal, etc., are bad qualities. Instead of what we once understood, which is that men and women typically are different, and that's a good thing. We complement each other. Less and less today, I think we're accepting of that. That has implication for families and communities and children, and a lot of women who are single because they can't find good guys to marry.
But it's also the notion of sacrifice. It sounds archaic now, but if a ship was sinking, women and children first, which one feminist in this country said she thought was akin to hate speech, which is quite...
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, now if you were on the Titanic, there wouldn't be that chivalry. There would be everybody for himself, right? And one of the reasons that's important, Michael, is because we used to understand that men are typically physically stronger and more aggressive. They have all that testosterone.
Yeah.
They can either channel it for good when it comes to women, caring for children, providing for a family, or they can channel it for ill. And that's why the vast majority of people in prisons are men, and they're single men, because they've not channeled their aggressiveness rightly in a way that's helpful for society and for the culture and for the community. They've channeled it destructively. Well, now we have a lot of guys who just aren't channeling it at all, and we have a huge proportion. The latest check was around 25% of people in their mid-20s are living in their parents' basements. Most of those are men. They're much more likely to be living at home than women. And so then women are excelling in the world, and they're turning around and wondering about where all the good guys are. I think there's a lot of ways women play into this. And one of them, no doubt, is that women have become so sexually available outside of marriage, there's not as much reason anymore for guys to get married and have families. So that's another way that feminism, while it's done some good things, has really led to a whole lot of women in their 40s looking around and saying, where have all the good guys gone?
Yeah, but there's probably not a man over the age of 35 who hasn't come across attractive, lovely, bright women in their 40s who say, I can't find a guy. I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, there are legal consequences too. There is now an assumption within the legal system in Canada, I think the US is the same, that when it comes to a custody dispute or a separation, the father, I mean, I think invariably the mother probably should have custody, but the father is barely to be considered. If there's violence in the home, even if they've hit each other, it's the man who has to be punished. I think that's part of the consequence of this, isn't it?
Yes, we do see, and it is reflected, I think, a lot in our court system, a presumption of guilt on the part of men when it comes to pretty much anything. I mean, when it comes to relationships. It's it seems more and more it's always the fellow who wasn't listening. It's always the fellow who wasn't communicating, and on it goes. And in the court systems, I mean, you can hear horror stories on both sides, that women have really taken advantage of this. Other times you see men, when their wives walk out the door, being left very much holding the shaft. I mean, I'd personally love to go back to a fault-based divorce system in our courts, so that you really do have to show who was more at fault in leaving the marriage, and let the money and the children kind of follow the better parent, if you will. I don't think we're ever going to go back to that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, what we do need to do, and the way to get around this, or to start changing things, and I'm working on a book on this very topic, is to encourage women, I think it starts there, to value traditionally male qualities in men, and to value themselves a little more in their feminine qualities, and not suggest that we have to sort of merge into one being, but that we do, as different genders, have a lot to offer. And we have a lot to offer the home and the family, and we need to kind of be rebuilding respect for that.